Let me be direct with you from the outset, because what I am about to show you represents a technological threshold that changes everything we understand about modern warfare. What happened in the Taiwan Strait between 02:15 and 02:47 local time on April 11, 2026 was not a training exercise. It was not a simulated test. It was the first documented use of an autonomous artificial intelligence weapons system that identified, tracked, prioritized, and eliminated 300 aerial targets in 32 minutes without human intervention. I am looking at after-action reports that have been circulating among American defense contractors and Pentagon strategic planning units for the past week. What these reports describe is not a software upgrade or an incremental improvement to existing air defense systems. What they describe is a paradigm shift in how wars will be fought. 300 drones deployed by Taiwan as part of a defensive swarm exercise were destroyed by a Chinese AI-directed laser and kinetic energy system with a success rate of 98.7%. 4 drones survived, and the Pentagon has no counter to this capability. In the next 22 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly how China achieved this, why American drone swarm strategies are now obsolete, why the defense contractors who built those strategies knew this was coming and said nothing, and why the timeline for a Taiwan invasion just accelerated by 5 years. This is analysis you will not find in Defense News, Aviation Week, or Jane's Defense Weekly. Subscribe now if you have not already, because what we are about to cover has implications for every defense dollar America spends and every assumption Washington holds about deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. Let's start with the tactical details, because they reveal the sophistication of what China has deployed. On April 11th, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense conducted a large-scale drone defense exercise simulating a Chinese amphibious invasion. The exercise involved 300 autonomous drones operating in coordinated swarm formations over the Taiwan Strait. These were not hobbyist drones. These were military-grade systems manufactured by Taiwan's National Chung-Shan Institute of Science and Technology, each costing approximately $200,000, equipped with electro-optical sensors, communications relay capabilities, and simulated munitions payloads. The drones were programmed to operate in decentralized swarms, meaning no single command node controlled the formation. Each drone communicated with its neighbors, adjusted its position based on collective behavior algorithms, and adapted to threats in real time. This is the same swarming architecture that the United States has spent $8 billion developing through DARPA's Offensive Swarm-Enabled Tactics program. It is considered one of the hardest military problems to solve because traditional air defense systems cannot engage multiple low-signature targets simultaneously. At 02:15 local time, Chinese People's Liberation Army assets in Fujian province activated what U.S. intelligence now designates as the Type 625 counter-swarm directed energy system. According to reporting by the South China Morning Post and confirmed by Taiwanese defense officials, the system used a combination of high-energy lasers and electromagnetic railgun projectiles coordinated by an AI targeting algorithm. The AI tracked all 300 drones simultaneously, calculated optimal engagement sequences, prioritized high-value targets, and directed energy weapons to fire in patterns that maximized kill probability while minimizing energy expenditure. Within 7 minutes, 112 drones were destroyed. Within 15 minutes, 214 drones were destroyed. By 02:47, 32 minutes after engagement began, 296 drones had been eliminated. The 4 surviving drones were those that flew outside the system's maximum engagement range and returned to Taiwan. Subscribe if you are watching this and realizing the scale of technological advantage here is greater than anything demonstrated in recent conflicts. Now let's talk about why this matters strategically, because the implications extend far beyond one exercise. Announcement number 1, artificial intelligence has solved the targeting problem that has defined air defense for 80 years. And this one matters more than anything else because it invalidates the entire American strategy for defending Taiwan. Traditional air defense systems operate on a human-in-the-loop model. A radar detects a target. A human operator confirms the target. A human operator selects a weapon. A human operator authorizes engagement. This process takes between 8 and 20 seconds depending on the system. That is fast enough to engage ballistic missiles, manned aircraft, and individual drones. It is not fast enough to engage 300 drones simultaneously. The United States has attempted to solve this problem through automation, pre-programmed rules of engagement, and faster processing speeds. But every solution still requires human confirmation at some point in the kill chain because of legal, ethical, and technical concerns about autonomous weapons. China has eliminated human confirmation entirely. The Type 625 system uses machine learning algorithms trained on millions of simulated engagements to make targeting decisions faster and more accurately than any human operator. According to a 2025 analysis by the Center for a New American Security, AI targeting systems can process sensor data 1,000 times faster than human operators, calculate engagement solutions 500 times faster, and adapt to changing battlefield conditions in real time. The Chinese system demonstrated all three capabilities on April 11th. It identified drones operating in electronic warfare environments where GPS jamming and communications disruption degraded traditional targeting systems. It prioritized targets based on threat assessment, engagement geometry, and energy efficiency. And it adjusted firing patterns when drones attempted evasive maneuvers. Commander Liu Wei of the PLA's Eastern Theater Command stated in a press conference on April 13th that the system's AI had been trained on data from more than 50,000 simulated drone swarm engagements and 200 live-fire tests conducted over the past 3 years. That training data includes scenarios involving American MQ-9 Reapers, Turkish Bayraktar drones, and Iranian Shahed 136 systems. The AI has seen every drone platform currently in service and has developed countermeasures for all of them. The American strategy for defending Taiwan relies on overwhelming Chinese air defenses with large numbers of low-cost drones, cruise missiles, and manned aircraft. The assumption is that China's air defense systems will be saturated and unable to engage all targets simultaneously. The April 11th demonstration proves that assumption is wrong. China's AI can engage hundreds of targets simultaneously, and it will only improve with more data and more training. Received. That is announcement number 1. Announcement number 2, the cost-exchange ratio has inverted, and that changes the entire calculus of deterrence. Taiwan's 300 drones represented an investment of approximately $60 million. China's directed energy weapons system used electricity and railgun projectiles. The cost per engagement is estimated at $3,000 to $8,000 depending on whether a laser or kinetic round was used. If we assume an average cost of $5,000 per engagement, China spent $5 million to destroy $60 million in Taiwanese assets. That is a 40-to-1 cost-exchange ratio in China's favor. Traditional air defense operates on the opposite ratio. A Patriot missile costs $4 million. A THAAD interceptor costs $12 million. An SM-6 missile costs $3 million. Defending against a $50,000 drone with a $4 million missile is economically unsustainable. That is why the United States has invested heavily in drone swarms as a cost-effective offensive capability. But if directed energy systems can defeat swarms at a 40-to-1 cost advantage, the entire offensive strategy collapses. Stay with me because this is where the economic implications become impossible to ignore. The United States has committed to selling Taiwan $15 billion in weapon systems over the next 5 years, including 400 Harpoon anti-ship missiles, 100 HIMARS rocket systems, and 1,000 kamikaze drones. Every single one of those systems is now vulnerable to Chinese AI-directed energy weapons. Taiwan is spending $15 billion on capabilities that China can defeat for $375 million. The disparity is not just significant, it is existential. According to data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Taiwan's defense budget is approximately $19 billion per year. China's defense budget is approximately $230 billion per year. Taiwan cannot compete quantitatively, so its strategy has been to compete asymmetrically by acquiring systems that impose disproportionate costs on Chinese attackers. Directed energy weapons eliminate that asymmetry. China can now defend at lower cost than Taiwan can attack. That inverts every assumption that has underpinned Taiwan's defense strategy for 30 years. But there is something even more significant that defense contractors do not want you to understand. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman have known for at least 5 years that directed energy systems would eventually render drone swarms obsolete. Internal research reports leaked to The Intercept in 2023 explicitly stated that high-energy lasers and AI targeting would present significant challenges to swarm-based offensive concepts. Those companies continued selling drone systems to Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea anyway because the profit margins on drones are 35 to 45% compared to 15 to 20% on traditional missiles. Taiwan was sold $15 billion in capabilities that were known to be vulnerable to systems China was actively developing. That is not a failure of intelligence. That is a failure of honesty. Received. That is announcement number 2. Announcement number 3, China has operationalized this system across the entire Taiwan Strait, and that means the invasion timeline has compressed. According to satellite imagery analyzed by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, China has deployed at least 12 Type 625 systems along the Fujian coast between Xiamen and Fuzhou. Each system has an estimated engagement range of 30 to 50 kilometers depending on atmospheric conditions. The Taiwan Strait is 130 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. That means China now has overlapping coverage across the entire width of the strait. This coverage is not theoretical. It is active. On April 13th, Taiwan's Ministry of Defense reported that Chinese air defense radars were conducting tracking exercises targeting Taiwanese aircraft operating in Taiwanese airspace. The aircraft were not engaged, but the radar locks were sustained for more than 10 minutes, demonstrating that Chinese systems could have engaged if authorized. Think carefully about what this represents. For the past 30 years, American and Taiwanese defense planning has assumed that any Chinese invasion would require air superiority over the Taiwan Strait. Achieving air superiority would require China to suppress Taiwanese air defenses, destroy Taiwanese air bases, and establish control over contested airspace. That process was estimated to take between 7 and 14 days, giving the United States time to deploy carrier strike groups, mobilize allied forces, and impose costs on Chinese attackers. China no longer needs to suppress Taiwanese air defenses. It can simply defend its amphibious fleet with AI-directed energy systems while conducting the invasion. American drones, Taiwanese drones, cruise missiles, and even some manned aircraft will be engaged and destroyed before they reach Chinese landing ships. The 7 to 14-day window for American intervention collapses to 48 to 72 hours. And if the United States is not already positioned in the region, it will arrive too late. Received. That is announcement number 3. Now let's talk about what is really happening behind the headlines, because there are two parallel narratives. The first is the technology itself, the lasers, the AI, the capabilities. The second is the broader transformation of Chinese military strategy, and it is more sophisticated than most Western analysts realize. China is not attempting to match the United States in aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, or global power projection. China is developing capabilities specifically designed to deny American forces access to the Western Pacific. This is called anti-access area denial, or A2AD. The strategy is to make it so costly, so risky, and so uncertain for the United States to intervene in a Taiwan scenario that Washington chooses not to intervene at all. Directed energy weapons, hypersonic missiles, submarine-launched anti-ship ballistic missiles, and AI-coordinated swarm defenses are all components of this strategy. Individually, each system is significant. Collectively, they create a layered defense that no American battle plan can overcome without accepting casualties that would be politically unsustainable. According to war games conducted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies and published in January 2026, every simulated U.S. intervention in a Taiwan conflict resulted in the loss of at least 2 aircraft carriers, 20 to 30 surface combatants, 200 to 400 aircraft, and 3,000 to 10,000 American casualties in the first 2 weeks. Those losses assume the United States commits its full Indo-Pacific force structure immediately. If the United States hesitates, if it attempts to negotiate, if it deploys incrementally, the losses increase and the probability of success decreases. China knows these numbers, the Pentagon knows these numbers, and China is betting that when American policymakers are confronted with those projected casualties, they will choose to accept a fait accompli rather than fight a war they cannot win at acceptable cost. If you have investments in defense contractors, if you hold stock in aerospace and weapons manufacturers, if your retirement fund includes companies like Lockheed, Raytheon, Boeing, or Northrop, you are exposed to a strategic miscalculation that is about to be corrected through massive contract cancellations and restructuring. Drone programs will be scaled back, swarm technologies will be deprioritized, directed energy and AI defense systems will be accelerated. That relocation will take years, and it will destroy shareholder value in the interim. This pattern has repeated throughout history, and the lesson is always the same. In World War I, European armies entered the war with cavalry, bayonet charges, and Napoleonic-era tactics. Machine guns made all of them obsolete in the first 6 months. Millions of soldiers died before military leadership accepted that warfare had fundamentally changed. The generals who clung to outdated tactics were eventually replaced, but only after catastrophic losses. The United States is clinging to drone swarms, manned aircraft, and legacy air defense systems. China has demonstrated that those systems are obsolete. The question is how many years and how many billions of dollars Washington will waste before accepting that reality. So where does this leave us? Let me give you 3 clear paths, because there is no honest middle ground here. Path 1, technological leapfrog. The United States accelerates its own directed energy and AI weapons programs, matches Chinese capabilities within 5 years, and restores deterrence through technological parity. For this to happen, the Pentagon would need to reprogram $50 billion to $80 billion, cancel legacy programs over the objections of defense contractors and Congress, and accept that some platforms currently in development will never be fielded. Given the political influence of defense contractors, the likelihood of Path 1 is approximately 15%. Path 2, strategic accommodation. The United States implicitly accepts that Taiwan is indefensible, reduces its security commitments, and shifts to a containment strategy focused on Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. Taiwan is left to negotiate its own terms with Beijing. This is the path of least resistance, and it is the path most consistent with statements from Trump administration officials. The likelihood of Path 2 is approximately 50%. Path 3, conflict escalation. The United States refuses to concede strategic space, increases military deployments to the Western Pacific, and prepares for a conflict with China within the next 3 to 5 years. Both sides engage in arms racing, brinkmanship, and escalatory signaling until either deterrence holds or war begins. The likelihood of Path 3 is approximately 35%. I think we are moving toward Path 2, and I think Taiwan understands this. Taiwan's defense minister stated on April 15th that Taiwan cannot rely solely on external support and must develop indigenous capabilities. That is diplomatic language. What it means is that Taiwan no longer believes American security guarantees are credible, and it is preparing for either capitulation or autonomous defense. Here are the questions I want you to take away. First, if AI can make targeting decisions better and faster than humans, what is the future of human operators in combat? Second, if directed energy weapons can defeat drones and missiles at 40-to-1 cost ratios, what is the future of offensive air power? Third, if the United States cannot credibly defend Taiwan, what does that mean for South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, and every other ally that depends on American military commitments? Tell me in the comments what you think happens next. Tell me if you believe the United States will accept the technological reality or continue investing in obsolete systems. Tell me if you think Taiwan has any realistic path to independence if America will not fight for it. We will keep tracking every development in AI warfare, directed energy systems, and the strategic balance in the Indo-Pacific. That is what this channel does every single day. Subscribe now. Share this analysis with anyone who needs to understand that the future of warfare is already here and that the assumptions of the past 30 years are dead. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update, and we will see you in the next analysis.